I welcome you all to the fifth day of 1 week online short-term program on Indian Knowledge System, jointly organized by the Department of Commerce, Institute of Lifelong Learning, and Shriram College of Commerce. Today, we are honored to have with us Professor Naveen Mathur. Professor Naveen Mathur is the former Vice Chancellor of Jagannath University, Jaipur. He was Professor of Business Administration at the University of Rajasthan. He has lectured in many other universities in India as well as in the University of Cape Town, South Africa. He has had a brilliant academic career and was awarded National Scholarship of the Government of India for pursuing higher studies. His area of academic interest are management theory and practice, management thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi, advertising and marketing, and management wisdom in ancient India. He has contributed enormous number of research papers to reputed journals, besides participating in seminars and conferences in India and abroad. His article on world food crisis has been included in the Encyclopedia Britannica. He is also a member of several academic bodies. Professor Mathur is a voracious reader and a prolific author. He has earned national and international recognition for his academic acumen. We are honored to have you, sir. Over to you.
Namaskar, sir.
Thank you very much, Shikha, for giving a very nice introduction. At the outset, let me tell you very frankly that I'm not feeling well. For a few days, I was bedridden.
Yes, sir.
Severe throat infection. So please bear with me. Although I have somehow managed by taking Indian medicine as well as Western medicine. So a combination of two is there. Anyway, it's a pleasure and a matter of pride to be associated with a program jointly organized by the Department of Commerce of the Delhi University, the Institute of Lifelong Learning, and Shriram College of Commerce, where one of my teachers, Dr. H.M. Mathur, worked for some time as principal long ago. So thank you very much for inviting me. Special thanks to Professor Ajay Kumar Singh, who thought it proper to associate me with this program. Although I humbly admit that I am not very much familiar with the old Indian scriptures, with the traditional knowledge, with the Sanskrit terms. But somehow I managed to listen to some of the speakers, including Professor Vajpayee, who is the Honorable Vice Chancellor in Chhattisgarh, Atal Bihari Vajpayee University. He talked about happiness, that ultimately we have to think of happiness. Indeed, it's very correct. And he said that the sources of knowledge are the Vedas, Shastras, Ramayana, Gita, and other scriptures. It is beyond doubt. You see, about 15 years ago, Alfred Ford, the great-grandson of Henry Ford, visited India, and he was in Ujjain for a month to inaugurate ISKCON temple. When someone asked him that why you are in India, you are already a rich person having everything. He said that I have come to India to search happiness. And this is the great thing about this country. It is beyond doubt. Now, this program has been organized considering the national education policy, and it is on the Indian knowledge system. Now, in several universities, this course on Indian knowledge system has been introduced. A separate division on Indian knowledge system has been established in the Ministry of Education. You see, in Rajasthan also we have made some efforts. We have established the Bharatiya Chintan Anusandhan Kendra in University of Rajasthan. And several courses are being run. But we have also included the courses on Gita, Ramayana, Ved, as well as we are teaching students the contemporary management experts, the business leaders. We are teaching them success stories. Now, this program has been organized taking into account the national education policy, which has in fact raised several issues, and a lot of debate is there on the national education policy 2020. And to achieve the vision and mission of the national education policy, several steps have been taken by the government. And in fact, it has rekindled debate on higher education itself, on the structure of higher education, on the various aspects, various issues pertaining to higher education. Hence, some brief observation on the national education policy, because the whole program is connected with it. In the very first paragraph, the policy talks about the education for social justice and equality. I think this point has to be noted, social justice, because I'll be talking later on about it. Scientific advancement, national integration, and cultural preservation. This is what is written in the very first paragraph of the national education policy, that education is for all these purposes. It also talks about universal high quality education. This is another important point which has to be taken into account. Then leadership on the global stage in terms of economic growth. What I mean to say is that the policy is not connected only with the ancient knowledge. A very broad perspective has been taken, and this is a great merit of this national education policy. All these things have been written in the first paragraph. Now, the second paragraph talks about the Sustainable Development Goals, which were framed in 2015 by all the countries of the world in New York to be achieved by 2030. Earlier, in 2000, the Millennium Development Goals were framed. There were 8 goals. And later on, when the countries realized that these goals could not be achieved and the new problems have come up, therefore, they thought it better to revise those goals. And the 17 sustainable goals have been framed. But most of the goals remain the same. Poverty continues to be the most baffling problem of this world as well as of the country. So the first goal is to remove poverty. Then comes hunger, another important problem of the country as well as of the world. So a global perspective has been taken. So we have to think about knowledge in that perspective. Then the policy says, I quote it, the rich heritage of ancient Indian knowledge and thought has been a guiding light for this policy. So it aims at knowledge, gyan, wisdom, pragyan, and truth, satya. So it wants to make India a global superpower. It talks about the constitutional values also. It talks about global well-being, global citizens, and wants to make India Vishguru again. It was Vishguru, definitely, but it wants to make India Vishguru again. These are some of the objectives. It talks about constitutional values. It's very, very interesting, and this has not been taken up so far by any of the speakers, and it is rarely discussed in seminars and conferences. All the problems of the countries are discussed. Social problems, economic problems are discussed, but the main thing that is written in the Constitution. If you read the preamble, it reads as under, just important points I will let you know. That we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to its all citizens. The first thing I am reading, justice, social, economic, and political. There are many other things in the preamble. So justice, social, economic, and political. So the question arises to my mind that whether we have achieved social justice, economic justice, or political justice. Perhaps not. It is beyond doubt that India is a land of saints and savants. India has a great intellectual history. We have a rich cultural heritage. It is a land of introspection and spirituality. It is the 7th largest country in the world, area-wise. And it is famous for its centers of learning like Nalanda, Takshila, Pushpagiri. And it ranks second in terms of population. But at the same time, it is a land of villages. We have about 638,000 villages in the country. And it extends to 2,000 miles from north to south and about 1,700 miles from east to west. That means it is a very vast country with 22 languages in the Constitution mentioned. But the greatness of this country is reflected in what Swami Vivekananda said more than 100 years ago in Colombo. He said that, I quote him, if there is any land on this earth that can lay claim to be the blessed Punya Bhumi, to be the land to which all souls on this earth must come to account for karma, the land to which every soul that is wending its way Godward must come to attain its highest home, the land where humanity has attained its highest towards gentleness, towards generosity, towards purity, towards calmness, above all the land of introspection and spirituality, it is India. I am also, unquote, I am also reminded of Mark Twain, a great American philosopher, a great writer. He said that India is the cradle of human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, about which some of the speakers have talked about, and the great mother of tradition. The joint director was talking about it. Our most valuable and most instructive materials in the history of man are treasured up in India only. This is what the American author has said about this great country. But this is one side of the story. Friends, we are discussing the Indian knowledge system. Now, what knowledge for what? Now, if you see the vision and mission,
Sir, you have muted yourself, I think, by mistake.
anyway, the Indian knowledge system, you see, this division, what is the mission? In fact, in the very first session, this should have been clarified. Mission is to create a database of individuals and organizations who have contributed by way of research, teaching and publication and preservation of ancient and contemporary rich Indian knowledge systems. That means the emphasis is also on the contemporary knowledge systems. And the great thing is that among the functions, this division says that the major function is to facilitate and coordinate Indian knowledge system based on inter and transdisciplinary work done by various institutions in India and abroad. That is to say that the Indian knowledge system division is not only concerned with the ancient Indian knowledge, but also concerned with the modern contemporary thoughts. What our saints and savants, what our luminaries have said even in the 20th century and in the independent India. 75 years have passed after independence. What is our contribution to knowledge? Who are the contemporary thinkers? That has to be taken care of. There's one thing, very important point which I wish to highlight. That knowledge for what? Knowledge for solving the problems. This is the object of transdisciplinary approach, interdisciplinary approach. You see, interdisciplinary approach and transdisciplinary approach, these are two different things. Transdisciplinary approach aims at solving common problems. People from various disciplines, institutions of various disciplines come together and try to solve a common problem. Therefore, I appreciate the vision and mission, and I compliment Shri Ram College of Commerce and Department of Commerce and the Institute of Lifelong Learning to organize an online program to make teachers aware and to discuss and deliberate this issue of the Indian knowledge system. So this point has to be taken care of whenever we discuss the Indian knowledge system. So far, I have noticed that it is on the traditional knowledge, the ancient knowledge. It is not only ancient India, but also the modern India. And as per the national education policy, India in the global perspective, global problems are there. The NEP talks about sustainable development goals, that how knowledge can be used to solve these problems, the current problems. When this program was inaugurated, the same day I read in the newspaper about the Oxfam report, which pointed out that 1% people of this country, rich people of this country, they have wealth of more than 40% of the country. This was declared on Monday itself. And according to this Oxfam report, hungry Indians, the number of hungry Indians have increased from 19 crores in 2018 to 35 crores in 2022. Now, if you are talking about the common social problems, utilizing the ancient knowledge and the current knowledge and the knowledge of the East and the West, you should be aware that countries' problems are somewhat different. Look to the Social Progress Index. We stand at position 110 out of 169 countries. Human Capital Index, of course, the government did not accept that. Our position is 116. Human Development Index 132. Happiness Index 136, about which Professor Vajpayee was talking about. Freedom of Press Index 100 position. Global Innovation Index, of course, we are performed better, 40%, 40, and Hunger Index 107 position out of 121 countries. So what type of knowledge is required? This is the main question. And how to apply that knowledge to solve the problems of the country and to increase uh, it's the standard of life, the quality of life, both things are necessary. Rabindranath Tagore, who won the Nobel Prize in 1913, when India was under the British rule, for about 89 years, it was directly under the rule of the British Emperor, the Crown Rule, we call it as. Although the East India Company came to this country long ago, but in fact, the situation in higher education changed after the British Education Act in 1835. So a major change was there, and the English language was compulsorily imposed at all places except at two places in Banaras Hindi University. Now it is called Banaras Hindi University, BHU, and one Mohammed College in Bengal. Now it is a university, state university in Bengal. Except at two places, English was imposed on the recommendations of Lord Macaulay. We of course blame Lord Macaulay and the British Education Act for spoiling this education system. No doubt about it. But what we have done in 75 years, this is the main question. How we have used our ancient knowledge, how we have used the wisdom of our luminaries, legends, in solving the basic problems of the people of this country. Because India lives in villages. About 68% of people still live in villages. What about their problems? We have seen the plight of the Indian labor during COVID time, traveling hundreds of kilometers, a few of them thousands of kilometers with no money in their hands. Such a state of affairs, the migration of labor from factories, from urban areas to villages, and they were not willing to come back. But since there was no option for them in villages, they could not even earn their bread and they could not live. So they had to return. So our village economy needs to be developed. So we have not properly utilized the ancient knowledge as well as wisdom of our great economists or philosophers. Rabindranath Tagore, the Nobel laureate, his famous poem in Gitanjali, where mind is without fear and head is held high, where knowledge is free. He said that, let my country awake. It is still due. Some efforts have been made, undoubtedly, and I am hopeful that this new education policy will bring some change in this. We are living in the fourth industrial revolution here. Industry 4.0. Tremendous changes have taken place in the knowledge, and this knowledge has resulted in a number of innovations. Fourth industrial revolution is featured by use of artificial intelligence, robotics, use of technology. But the problems remain the same. In fact, technology has exceeded humanity. I repeat, technology has exceeded humanity. Human problems have not been solved. The problems of the people of the country and elsewhere too have not been solved. Poverty is a big problem. The inequality is increasing. 1% people of this world, they have wealth more than 47% of the population. This is the state of affairs. In India, it is more than 40. In world, it is more than 47. What for we are reading Indian scriptures? What for we are using technology? Developments have taken place, undoubtedly, and knowledge has been generated in the country also. We stand at number 3 in the world after China and US in producing scientific journals. 5% share is of India, about 20, more than 20% of China, 16% of US. But where is that development? So knowledge has not been implemented, what I mean to say. Human problems have not been solved. We may claim to be a developing economy, that we will attain this target and we will be one of the biggest economies of the world, beyond doubt. And it is also true that the best antidote to poverty is economic growth. And economic growth is possible by use of technology. Nobody can challenge it. But that technology must be coupled with social welfare, human welfare. It must reach the poor sections of the society. Otherwise, what knowledge we are talking about?
I request Ms. Anku to please put the mic off. You may carry on, sir.
So we have failed to maintain difference between growth, prosperity, growth, progress, and success. Success in life is different. Success in business is different. This is what Swami Gyan Vatsalya has said. Growth means simply rise in the business from 1 crore to 5 crore, from 5 crore to 10 crores and all that. But if this growth is coupled with some ethics, it is progress. When progress is coupled with the spirituality, humanity, then it is success. So we are using our knowledge for growth. We are using our knowledge for progress, but not for success. This is where we are lacking. We have moved from hunting era to agriculture era. From agriculture we moved to industrial era. From industrial era, we have moved to knowledge era. And presently we are in knowledge area. But what about that wisdom? We had to move from knowledge area to wisdom area. Where there is peace, there is happiness. There is consideration of others. Special consideration of the poor sections of the society. So on one side, we lack the ancient wisdom. On the other side, we are not using the technology. We are not using whatever knowledge we have gathered to solve the problems of the country. You see, in US, situation before 1862 was not very good. Most of the universities were functioning just like Indian universities presently. It was the moral act in 1862 that brought significant sea change in the higher education. The moral act talked about the land grant universities, that we have to focus research which we have gathered, and use our knowledge to solve the problems of US. Agriculture, especially agriculture problem. And that moral act brought significant change in the US. The knowledge which the researchers used to gather that time before 1862, that was used not in the US but elsewhere, in UK and Germany. They were more benefited. But moral act resulted in development of the United States. It resulted in certain changes, tremendous changes, I should say, in the education system in US and use of knowledge in solving problems of the United States. And in this country, what has happened that we have not focused on the Indian problems. This is a major problem. We have not applied our knowledge in solving problems of the economy. We have succeeded, of course, in several sectors, in biotechnology sectors. It is not that development has not taken place. Development has taken place in the country. It is beyond doubt. Situation in 1947 and situation in 22 or 23, that is different. But poverty has not reduced. Crores of people sleep hungry. What type of knowledge we are talking about? How to apply that knowledge is important. How to benefit the poor sections, the lower sections of the society is important. So there is need of a wisdom area now. And some progress has been made, of course, in research in IIMs and IITs. But in most of the universities, you see, researches start in the library and end in the library. PhD thesis is only gather dust. This is not untrue of Delhi University. This is not untrue of BHU. It applies everywhere. Exceptions are there, of course. Even if the research is very good, but that finding is not communicated to the relevant industry, to the government, to the relevant organization, if that is not implemented, then what for we have gathered knowledge and conducted research? So this point must be taken care of. My word about the Western and Indian philosophies. So far we have, I was listening to some of the speakers, we have concentrated on the ancient Indian wisdom. The Western philosophy is based on the concept of greatest good of the greatest number. And the Indian philosophy is different. It talks about welfare of all. Sarjan Sukhai, Sarjan Hitai. This is the Indian philosophy. Western philosophy talks about external excellence. We talk about internal excellence. Spirituality is the master key of the Indian mind. But if you only talk about the internal excellence, then the problems will not be solved. So a combination of Western excellence and internal excellence is therefore required. That is, I think, the need of the hour. You see, what difference I noticed difference in the Western approach and in the Indian approach. I noticed when I visited Banaras in the university some time back. When I entered the Faculty of Management Studies, I could find two quotations at the entrance gate. On the left-hand side, a quotation of whom we call Mahanama, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. On the right side, a quotation of Henry Ford. Pandit Malviya says, character, enterprise, and integrity are pivotal to success in life, essential in life. He talks about character, he talks about enterprise, he talks about integrity. Henry Ford says, a business that makes nothing but money is a poor business. Of course, his idea is great that you have to do something for the society, but his approach is different. He talks about business, while Pandit Malviya talks about character building. He talks about integrity. This is the difference. But unfortunately, we have given tremendous importance to the Western thinkers. It is not that the Western thinkers, the Western experts, for instance, in commerce and management, they have not done anything. They have conducted intensive researches and we teach them. They are relevant. It is beyond doubt. But what about the Indian contributions to management? Do we really teach them? In how many universities we are teaching contributions of, leave aside the ancient ideas, contributions of, say, Mahatma Gandhi in management, contribution of, say, S.K. Chakraborty in management, contribution of the great Indian business leaders like J.R.D. Tata. Hardly universities have courses to teach their success stories, to teach their main philosophy. For instance, Tatas follow the Zoroaster principles of life. Zoroaster was a great Iranian spiritual leader. And he said there are basically three principles: Humata, Hukta, and Harshita. Meaning thereby good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Humata means good thoughts, Hukta means good words, and Harsa means good deeds. Good thoughts. This is what is written, originally was written on the crest of the house of Tatas. And this is the guiding philosophy of the Tatas. And therefore, we find a different culture in Tatas. Are we teaching students about it? I am reminded of what Sri Aurobindo wrote in Grief. He wrote in Grief. He said, I quote him, but our educated class have become so unfamiliar with the deeper knowledge of their forefathers that it has to be translated into modern European terms before they can understand it. For it is the European ideas alone that are real to them. And the great truths of Indian thought seem to them mere metaphors, allegories, and mystic parables, so well as British education done its fatal denationalizing work in India, unquote. So it is true that we have forgotten our ancient past. We have a rich cultural heritage, and we have to utilize that knowledge, the wisdom of our saints and servants, the wisdom of our great legends, and do not give undue importance to the Western world. It is not that, I don't say that don't give any importance. You must give importance to that, must, but Rigved says that let noble thoughts come to us from all sides. Why not appreciate the Western ideas? We must appreciate. Western technology must be used. This is time for collaborations, partnerships. But undue importance, you see, a former CEO of General Electric Company, GE Company. He was hailed as manager of the 20th century by Fortune magazine. Manager of the 20th century. But we don't call Mahatma Gandhi as manager of the 20th century. The father of the nation and man of the millennium. We don't relate Gandhian thoughts with management, whom we have hailed as the father of management in the country. No one. We don't teach Uday Parikh, who has developed motivation models. We teach only foreign ideas, theories of Maslow, Herzberg, Room. We don't look into the Indian contributions. We don't look into the ancient knowledge. This is the point which I wish to raise, and this must be taken care of. Therefore, ancient knowledge must be combined with the modern knowledge, contemporary knowledge. Only then the problems will be solved. Knowledge of the East and knowledge of the West, both are important. Efforts have been made in the country through, say, Atmanirbhar Bharat, inclusive growth, startups. We have performed well. That's why we stand at number 4 in innovation. Make in India, all these efforts have been made. And but we have ignored the thinkers of independent India. We have ignored the thoughts of the great business leaders of the country. We have ignored the thoughts of the great Indian professors of the country. We have ignored the thoughts of the great Indian professionals of the country, like, say, Prakash Tandon, T. Thomas, who are great professionals and who have given good ideas. We have ignored that. Now, I start with the concept of social responsibility of management, social responsibility of business. Ramkrishna Bajaj, he was instrumental in developing a code of conduct for the business houses. That code still exists. Improvements have been made, is different. So what is the difference between the Occidental approach and the Indian approach as far as social responsibility of business is concerned? That's why the problem remains where they are. You see the difference, you see. It is true that by social responsibility, there are provisions in the Indian Companies Act also to 2013. Companies Act also, there are provisions of CSR. You see. Under Section 135, there is provision, and there is a Schedule 7, which contains areas where CSR funds can be used. Say for removal of poverty, this is the first one, removal of hunger. It is good that some effort has been made in this direction. But by CSR, we mean only taking interest of the shareholders, the customers, the society at large. But the Oriental approach is somewhat different. That has to be highlighted. Knowledge about that becomes important. I start with that the Oriental thinkers, I've written somewhere, view the entire creation, including the instruments of economic production, to have emanated from one superpower, that is nature. They have also the conviction that the universal organization is being governed through the system of where everything emanates from, is amalgamated and is absorbed by and is reconstructed by the supreme power in the form of nature. That is, everything comes from nature, everything will go to nature. Now, Isha Upanishad says by the Lord enveloped must this all be, whatever moving things there is in the moving world. With this renounce, though may enjoy, covet not the wealth of anyone at all. This is what Upanishad says. So the management, according to the Oriental approach, must try to harness nature through human energy, of course, for human good. Now, when we feel scarcity, we request Mother Nature. We say, "Tu अन्नपूर्णा माँ रमा है और हम भूखे मरे, कह दे जनार्दन को जगह, हम अब ना और सताइए." So we pray nature in case of scarcity. So the management must be custodian of God's wealth. He should act as, he should be a role, simple, he should play a role of being God's custodian. And all human beings should be the beneficiaries. He should not grab any sort of power, including social power, but should be a social servant. Sarvbhute hite rata. This is what is written in Gita. So we should behave like a Karam Yogi. This is what the Oriental concept says. Western concept is somewhat different. So we have to utilize our ancient knowledge in solving this problem. We have seen the Satyam is come. There, we have seen that many of the corporate sector do not invest, even if they are able to invest in the CSR activities, because there is a limit. In CSR, if your profits are more than 5 crores annually, or if your net worth is more than, or your sales, they have exceeded a limit, then only you are required. But if you earn some, say, 4 crores, and if your business is, say, 15 crores, only then also you can do something for the society. But we don't do it. So the Oriental approach in as far as social responsibility is undoubtedly different. Now, we come to Chanakya. I was listening to one of the speakers on Chanakya, Kautilya Arthashastra. He was talking about Chanakya. He wrote several books. Now we call them Arthashastra, Kautilya Arthashastra. And he has given wonderful ideas and he implemented. If somebody asks that who is known as for propounding the principle of span of control, we say Luther Gully. Sorry, L.F. Irving, we say. L.F. Irving propounded the principle of span of control. But Chanakya used it 2000 years ago. His great contribution in creating organizational structure, in pointing out duties and responsibilities of the different officers, in pointing out the emoluments also. It was a great contribution that he created organizational structure. He anticipated Drucker in designing organizational structure in terms of duties and responsibilities as well as in terms of emoluments. But we don't give credit to Chanakya. We give credit to Peter F. Drucker. We give credit to the foreign thinkers. We don't appreciate, we don't teach. We teach Chanakya only from the point of economics. We don't take Chanakya from the point of view of as a management expert. So he's a great mighty management mind of the country, I feel. He propounded what is known as the Rajrishi model, that a king, here we call it, we may call it the CEOs of the companies, must act as Rajrishi. And he said that Rajrishi is one who has self-control, who cultivates the intellect by association with elders, who keeps his eyes open through spies, who is ever active in promoting the security and welfare of the people, who ensures the observances of their dharma by authority and example, who improves his own disciple, learning in all branches of knowledge. So he suggested the Rajrishi model. How many of the CEOs of this country, leave aside a few, like Narayan Murthy, they are bothered about this Rajrishi model? Do we teach our students that CEOs should behave like Rajrishis? Chanakya said that in the happiness of his subject lies the king's happiness. In their welfare, his welfare. He shall not consider as good only that which pleases him, but treat as beneficial to him whatever pleases his subjects. So whatever is the interest of the society, in the larger interest, is in the interest of the king, in the interest of the companies. So this is what I wish to highlight about Chanakya. There are many other things you see in this short time. We can't discuss all these things. Now coming to Gandhi. Gandhi, whom we call as Bapu, the father of the nation, he made tremendous contribution to management also. He was not only a social reformer, he was not only a political thinker, he was not only a philosopher, but he gave certain ideas. He has not written any book on management. His life is a book. We can learn a lot from his letters, from his speeches, from his writings in Harijan or in other, say, newspapers, in journals. If you visit Sabarmati Ashram, you will find almost all the quotations, Gandhian thoughts. I read one of them. His greatest contribution is about the trusteeship theory, that all business houses must act as trustees of the wealth of the societies. This is what Gandhi said. Do we relate this social responsibility concept with this trusteeship concept of Gandhi? No. We hardly teach Gandhi when we talk about the social responsibility concept. What to talk of the Oriental philosophy? Gandhi said that I do not believe in the doctrine of the greatest good of the greatest number. It means in its nakedness that in order to achieve the supposed good of 51%, the interest of 49% may be, or rather should be, sacrificed. It is a heartless doctrine and has done harm to humanity. The only real dignified human doctrine is the greatest good of all. And this can only be achieved by uttermost self-sacrifice. This is what Mahatma Gandhi, in a letter to Dadabhai Naroji on 14, he said on 4th of June 1932. So Gandhi, you see, had a great respect for the society. He thought of the society. He gave several ideas pertaining to management. We can relate those thoughts with management, but we have failed. We have failed to use the Gandhian thoughts in management. In fact, we live in the land of Gandhi. Gandhi doesn't belong to us. We belong to the land of Gandhi. His life, it's a message. His thoughts on business, his thoughts on management, they are really very relevant. He said on about trusteeship, he said that no matter how much money we have earned, we should regard ourselves as trustees holding these monies for the welfare of all. So this is, I think, the of greatest importance, but we have ignored. And this problem, which arose during COVID time problem, the labor would have been solved. But we don't realize that the importance of Gandhian thoughts. Gandhi talked about self-discipline in life. It's a very big thing. And but we don't maintain self-discipline. Now about his thoughts on labor, they are equally important. Gandhi said in one of his writings that I am for the establishment of right relations between the capital and labor. I do not wish for the supremacy of one over the other. I do not think there is any natural antagonism between them. The rich and the poor will always be with us, but their natural relations will be subject to constant change. If labor is power, so is work. So, Gandhian thoughts on labor are also important. Gandhi had great respect for women. Even the sustainable goal talked about women that they should be treated at par with men. That disparity, gender disparity must be reduced. But friends, women get on the whole 30% less than men in this world and in the country also. 30% less for the same work. This discrimination is continuing. Gandhi believed that products have spiritual values also. We talk about the functional value of the product. We talk about the aesthetic value of the product. We talk about the symbolic value of the product. But according to Gandhi, products have spiritual value. A product which is manufactured by exploiting workers has no spiritual value. A small gift by your mother has a great spiritual value, maybe of say even 50 rupees. I am from Jaipur. I know that in Jaipur, if you visit the famous Bapu Bazaar and Link Road, you will find wonderful, very attractive bangles. And Jaipur is famous for it. Lakh ki chuniya. You will find several holdings. But these bangles are made by exploiting labor, by especially child labor. Child is kidnapped from different places, kept here, and they are forced to make it. Such products may be very beautiful. They may even be exported. Businessmen may earn from it. But it has no spiritual. So this has to be taken care of. Gandhi talked about the three monkeys that see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. Three monkeys, you see. Gandhi talked about inclusive growth. He talked about the self-dependent villages. We realized during COVID time that we have not used our knowledge, our technology for development of the villages. Now the government has initiated several schemes for development of villages. In this context, I must say that the Pura model proposed by Abdul Kalam, providing urban amenities in rural areas, is very relevant. Of course, certain changes were proposed by the government in perhaps into the 2012, and the knowledge input was replaced by that provision of say water, electricity, and all that in villages. So that Pura model suggested by Abdul Kalam, this is a contemporary knowledge. It must be promoted, maybe in a revised form, that how the urban amenities at Puras can be formed in villages. Some Puras are active also, some have failed. It is true. But that model can be revised and updated. It talks about the physical connectivity, you see, it talks about the knowledge connectivity, it talks about the electronic connectivity. Some changes can be made and this model can be improved, but yet this is a very wonderful concept which was propounded by our former dismissed president, the missile man of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So, so Gandhi, therefore, developed several thoughts, and all these thoughts were reflected in his speeches, in his letters, in his writings, in newspapers and other, say, especially Harijan. He talked about time management, and he's very particular about time. A great lesson we can draw about time. Leadership, he said that leader is only first among equals. So Gandhian thoughts on management are therefore very much relevant. He did not intend to develop a theory of management, but we can relate it. So that knowledge of the great legend, Mahatma Gandhi, has been ignored so far as I understand. And Gandhi is taught only in, say, when we talk in the political science departments, not elsewhere, not in commerce courses, not in management courses. We don't refer to Gandhi. We must, and we must use this knowledge. Now, Gandhi greatly influenced the thoughts of the working of the Bajaj Group. General Bajaj was regarded, Gandhi regarded him as his fifth son. Birla Group, J.D. Birla, greatly influenced J.D. Birla also. He greatly influenced Ratan Tata. He greatly influenced Bharat Charat Ram. Do we teach the success stories of Birla Group? The thoughts of Birla in commerce and management? No. Birlas are known for their own system of management. They are known for what is known as the Parata system. Parata system, P-A-R-T-A, Parata system. This involves analysis on a daily basis of input costs and the extent and reason for variance from predetermined operating costs. So Parata has several features, and this has been used by J.D. Birla. Now, let us talk about S.K. Chakrabarty. S.K. Chakrabarty, his books, Management by Values, and other books, say, for instance, Human Response Development, foundations of managerial work. They are excellent works. But we have not used the thoughts of S.K. Chakravarti. We have not applied, we have not popularized. We don't consider them as for teaching in to management students. Of course, in University of Rajasthan, we have introduced S.K. Chakravarti, thoughts of S.K. Chakravarti long ago, about 10 years ago. We included S.K. Chakravarti in the course itself. S.K. Chakravarti talks about the purity of mind and moksha. He said that this would enhance the quality of decision making. He developed several values. He said that in an organization, the individual must be respected. His jealousy is harmful for mental health. He talked about purification of mind, chit shuddhi, top quality product. He said that work is worship, containment of greed. He talked about the ethical moral soundness. He talked about self-discipline and self-restraint. He talked about creativity, customer satisfaction, inspiration to give, renunciation and detachment. And he developed a new concept that is known as the human response development. We teach human resource development, but we don't teach the concept of human response development as suggested by S.K. Chakravarti. He said that humans respond, other resources don't respond. I quote him. Organization members should seek and display sustained, constructive, and productive human response in every walks of life. Minerals and water do not respond, so they are resources, but humans respond. The objective should there be to educate organizational members for the wholesome response patterns. Hence, human resource response development seems to be a better expression than human resource development, especially when quality of work life is a concern. I unquote. So these thoughts have been ignored so far. S.K. Chakravarti is also well known for making a distinction between knowledge worker and a wisdom worker. Knowledge worker is someone who thinks that who is more objective. Wisdom worker is more subjective. Wisdom worker is humble. Knowledge worker is egoistic. So he divided workers into two categories: the knowledge workers and the wisdom workers. Knowledge workers is enlightened, tends to at the most enlightened self-interest. He talks about self-interest. But a wisdom worker is prone to be much more often to subordinate separate self-interest for wider and bigger interest. So a wisdom worker therefore thinks of others, welfare of others. So he is a broader approach, but we don't teach S.K. Chakravarti. So we have to use his knowledge. He established the Center for Human Excellence in Calcutta, IIM Calcutta. J.R.D. Tata, I have already told you about that philosophy that they are guided by the Zoroastrian principles. He talked about Humata, Harshita, and Hukta. And I quote J.R.D. Tata that to be a leader, you have got to lead human beings with affection. He said that once we get the best people who shared our values and ideals, we let them free to act on their own. We do not fetter them. We encourage them and give them opportunities for leadership. This is how persons like Rusi Modi at Tisco and Sumant Mulgaonkar at Telco have developed. They have become good leaders. So Tatas give great opportunities of leadership to their employees. Now coming to Charatram, because it is a Sri Ram College of Commerce, I thought it better to quote him. Charatram, also his son Charatram. He is also known for adopting the Gandhian philosophy. He is also known for following the social responsibility concept. He said that in life we must have some goal. No doubt in whatever we do, the money motives is there, but there is a better motive, and that is to serve the country by producing things which have not been produced. The behavior of our enterprises will hereafter have a far greater influence upon society than ever before. But his thoughts have not been taught so far. Likewise, Dharni Sinha, he was also a professor at IIM Calcutta. He has done a great work on training, and his book on T group, stream building, and OD is very popular, you see, but not in the country, but outside the country. He has explained OD in details, organization development, and he has suggested a model also. I will not go in details at this stage because of shortage of time, which is only 3:43. So some time for discussion also. Now, Prakash Tandon, former chairman of Hindustan Lever, who was also the president of Indian Institute of Management at Ahmedabad and chairman of PNB and State Trading, he has also made certain useful observations. And individually as well as in association with TV Rao, he has developed certain models, but we don't use the questionnaires suggested by Uday Parikh and TV Rao while doing research on motivation. We use foreign questionnaires. Uday Parikh is well known for developing a motivation model. Do we teach that? He said that motivation is achievement motivation into extension motivation minus dependence motivation. But we have not taught it. We don't look into it. His book Beyond Management is itself very important. So a lot of thoughts are there, but we have ignored these thoughts. When I wrote a book on management gurus in 1989, I studied the Western contributions of 52 eminent thinkers. But later on, I realized that the Indian thoughts are equally important. It contains a legion of thoughts, you see, on management, and we can use those thoughts also. We can learn various principles of management through Bhagavad Gita also. Gita is an epitome of all scripture, you see, and it teaches us about the motivation, about leadership, about the various principles. It talks about the division of work also. It talks about unity of direction, and it says that motives acceleration, and it talks about supportive relationships also. So a lot of concepts are there in Gita also. I need not to go into details at this stage. Some time for discussion also. So I would like to conclude by saying that the knowledge of ancient India is relevant undoubtedly, but the knowledge of the contemporary India, knowledge of our great thinkers, professionals, great legends, and knowledge of the West are equally important. All have to be used together to solve the problems of the country as well as to solve the problems of the other countries also. So a very wide perspective of knowledge management system has to be taken. We should not take a very narrow view of Indian knowledge system by concentrating only on knowledge of scriptures. This is not going to solve the problems of the country, neither problems of other countries. Knowledge of ancient India is important, no doubt about it. It teaches us several principles of life. It talks about the spirituality. But knowledge of our own experts in, especially in the field of management, economics also, knowledge of professionals, knowledge of our own professors who have worked in great universities. Even Delhi University has produced great professors. Do we ever consider their ideas? Knowledge of professors in IITs, IIMs, all these are matters. All these things matter. The knowledge of our business leaders, their success stories also are important. You see. Knowledge of the West is equally important. And that knowledge has to be applied to solve the problems of the country. That's what the application of this knowledge, the application by combining knowledge of the East and the West, by combining knowledge of the contemporary thinkers as well as thinkers of the past, has to be used for solving the problems of the country. Has to be used for reducing the gap between the rich and the poor. Should be used for solving the problems of the villages, the poor sections of the society, reduce poverty. Because national education policy also talks about its sustainable development goals. Not only is the sustainable development goal 4 pertain to education, but other goals also. It says that it aims to achieve other goals also. So there are in all 16 goals. So goal 4 is only one of them. So there are 17 goals, sustainable development goals. So problems of the world have been reflected in the sustainable development when poverty is the number one problem. It was in 2000 also when the Millennium Development Goals were framed. In 2015, same problem is there. And the gap between the rich and the poor is increasing instead of being decreasing. And on the other side, we say that the world is developing, country is developing. Of course, there are certain social problems, economic problems, but the problems remain the same. Therefore, I conclude that a very wide perspective of knowledge system should be taken into account. And in fact, this whole program should have included the contemporary knowledge also, the knowledge of our own thinkers who are living at present, or the knowledge of the independent Indian thinkers also. So thank you very much. Now, if there are any questions, you're free to ask questions. I will see the chat box. So I have adopted a different approach, you see. You might be expecting that I would talk about Bhagavad Gita, I will talk about Mahabharata, and I will talk about Ramayana, and I will talk about Indian scriptures and relate it to management. But that was not the whole idea. I want to take a discussion to a different level, you see. We have to take a very broad view.
If the participants have any question, they may please ask to the sir.
Not only questions, you can make your observations also. It is not, I don't claim to be an expert. I'm just one of them. It is an forum, exalted forum, I should say, of experts and scholars in commerce and management and in other disciplines. So you are free to make your own observations. You may differ with me, you may agree with me, you may partially agree with me, but I want to learn from you also that what is your viewpoint.
The name make a yeah.
Yes.
The, like we talked about hunger and we talked about poverty, but can't we see it in reference to population? Because population is too much, and despite like 80 crore being fed by the government of India during COVID, and on the other hand, we see like people are to be given free food, and on the other hand, we see long queues outside wine shops. So if they have money to spend on wine, so but they don't have money to like buy food for themselves. So I mean, this is the somehow I feel this there is, I know
Your
there is, yeah.
some audio call, you see.
Sorry.
Anyway, I got your point. You are saying that population related issues.
Yeah.
So
I
you
mean,
see,
clear,
population is also.
was I audible clearly? Was I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you were audible.
So you're talking about the long queues in wine shops, you see. And that's there. I think this is a social problem. And here self-discipline and the Indian, ancient Indian wisdom has to be used. And these problems are there. You see, such a big country with 136 crores of people are living in this country. And these problems were there earlier also. This is not a very new problem, you see. And these are social problems and may be solved, you see, undoubtedly. And about, you see, hunger, it is not that by going to a liquor shop, you feel that he's an angry man. No, it is not that. This is a problem in urban areas also. Even rich people, they line up for wine, for liquor. So it is not a problem connected with the poor sections of the society, which we read in newspapers that so many people have died because of illicit liquor. It is a problem in cities also. And this is a source of warning also for the government. Government should stop it. Since you are women, I have a great respect for you, and I'm happy that first question is raised by women. And this is a social problem, and it has to be solved. So there is a need of social consciousness also. And here, our ancient wisdom may be of great relevance.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Any question, Dr. Shikha, Dr. Deepika Bansal, or any other participant?
So we just have to thank you a lot. Despite of your bad health, you were so kind enough to deliver on your commitment. I mean, we can see that it's like so kind of you.
In the morning, I took antibiotic and I'm feeling uneasy. Anyway, it's all right.
Okay.
This is how life goes on. A part of life.
Yes. A bitter but the truth of life.
Is that there is some discussion, you see, on this Indian knowledge systems division. It talks about the knowledge of the generated outside the country also, and contemporary Indian knowledge also. So that has to be combined. You are till now, I think you are talking only about the ancient knowledge about Indian scriptures and all that. But there should be some, at least one session on this, the contemporary knowledge concerning the and the knowledge of the West also, concerning the national education policy uh, and the Indian knowledge system division, objectives and functions. So that has to be mixed. I wish in the validity session you ask your chief guest, I don't know who is, to throw some light on amalgamation of the Western knowledge and the Indian knowledge, as well as knowledge of the ancient India and the contemporary India. So that I think is necessary, and how this knowledge can be applied in solving the problems of the country, general problems of the country, the rather the most important problems of inequality, growing inequality, poverty, hunger. All these problems must be solved. Nowadays, it cannot be solved only through discussion and writing about or discussing about or a debate on the ancient wisdom. That alone is not sufficient, I think. This is my point of view. One may agree or disagree.
Sure, sir. We'll take that into consideration as well. I may now request the convener of the ST, Dr. Shekha Makkar, to please deliver the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. So again, as Dr. Deepika also mentioned, I would really like to thank you for delivering the session today in spite of your ill health. My best wishes to you. I hope you really get well soon. Thank you so much, sir, for awakening us to start discussing, talking about, our own leaders, our own philosophers in the classrooms, rather than just getting inspired from the West. I think it's really important that we start, look within and start discussing, like you mentioned about Mr. Ratan Tata, Mr. Birla, Mr. Uday Parekh. I mean, there are so many great management philosophers that we can really bring into our classroom discussion and enrich ourselves as well as our students alike. I think that truly would be Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav for our new Bharat, to start talking about our Bharat. So thank you so much, sir, for that reminder to all of us that we need to start talking about India, about Indians, about Indian philosophers. Thank you. Thank you so much. There are some announcements that we need to make for our participants. We would request the participants to please submit the NOC, the No Objection Certificate, by your institution if you haven't already done so. If there are any inquiries or queries related to NOCs, please write an email to us at iks@commerce.du.ac.in. After this session, we will have the next session at 4:15 by Mr. and Mrs. Hari from Bharat Gyan. So please join back at 4:15. Another announcement is that tomorrow, after 2 sessions are over, at 5:45, the valedictory session would be held from 5:45 to 6:45. And for that, a separate attendance would be floated. So please do attend all the 3 sessions for tomorrow also. Thank you so much. See you after 15 minutes. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.